In Chapter 7, we're going to work on solving equations for x. And the first method we're going to focus on is something called completing the square. So if you notice, our three examples have something in parentheses that is being squared. So this is when we complete the square, which we'll get into more details in our following examples. We want to get it down to this thing that's being squared so that we can solve. The opposite of squaring is to square root both sides. The square root cancels out the square, leaving us with x minus 3 equals, and then the square root of 8 is, well, that's the square root of 8. And then we're going to go ahead and add 3 to both sides because we're just working on solving for x. And so x equals 3. Whoa. 3. And then the one thing I forgot to mention, when you square root both sides when you're solving, you guys remember how we would have to bring in that plus or minus? So it is a plus or minus square root of 8. Now for our final answer, we don't want to leave the square root of 8. If this is something that can be reduced, we will reduce it with our perfect squares. So remember, 4 fits in twice, and we know the square root of 4 is 2. So really x equals 3 plus or minus a 2 square root of 2. Now really that's two answers. One of them is 3 plus 2 square root of 2, and the other one is 3 minus 2 square root of 2. But if you notice, I'm not taking a calculator to figure out what the square root of 8 is and getting some decimal answer. This is considered an exact answer, and this is the form that we're going to have our answers in. So when you square root both sides, if it's a number you can't take the square root of, then we will be reducing it. Alright, so let's try another one. Here we have this thing is being squared, so we can go ahead and square root both sides. The square root cancels out the square, leaving us with 1/2 t minus 12 equals, I'm going to go ahead and remember that plus or minus right now. Plus or minus the square root of 50. Now, we can go ahead and add 12 to both sides. So we have 1/2 t is equal to 12 plus or minus the square root of 50. And then we've got this 1/2 t that we have to take care of. So you can cancel out a 1/2 t by multiplying both sides by 2. So 2 times a half is just t, so we have t equals. Now we have to multiply both of these terms by 2. So I'm going to do 2 times 12, we know that one is 24. Plus or minus, and 2 times the square root of 50 is 2 times the square root of 50. So we have t solved for. The only thing we have to look at is if there's anything we have to simplify within our answer, and we do have the square root of 50. So let's go ahead and reduce that. We know that 25 fits in twice. And the square root of 25 is 5, but remember this 2 that was out front? That gets multiplied out front with the 5. So in the end, t is equal to, we have that 24 plus or minus, and then this becomes 10 square roots of 2. Alright, let's look at one more example before we get to our other examples where we get into more what completing the square is. So you can see we have x minus 3 squared, but what's different about this is there's this divided by 2. So we know we're going to have to square root both sides to undo the square, but the thing I want to make sure we know is if there's anything outside of the squared thing, see that divided by 2, we have to get that to the other side before we can square root both sides. So we're dividing by 2, opposite of that is to multiply both sides by 2. Multiply by 2 and divide by 2 cancel, leaving us with x minus 3 squared equals negative 12. Alright, then we're going to go ahead and square root both sides. Square root of x minus 3 squared is just x minus 3. And then I did just square root both sides, I'm going to say plus or minus, but then we're square rooting a negative 12. So remember, we know how to work with that. We bring in our I. So that's just going to be I times the square root of positive 12. And then we're going to keep solving for x. I'm adding 3 to both sides. So we have x equals 3 plus or minus I times the square root of 12. And again, let's take a look at our final answer, see if there's anything we should be simplifying, and that square root of 12, we want to break that down. That breaks down into a 4 and a 2. Nope, 4 and a 3. We know the square root of 4 is 2, but that I is going to come down with that. So I'm going to go ahead and just write our final answer. X equals 3 plus or minus 2 times I, so 2I square root of 3. All right, so to continue down my little memory lane of concerts I've been to, this group, this is a concert I went to when I was in college down in Cincinnati with my college roommate. Didn't have tickets for it. We went downtown and bought tickets on the street because we just wanted to go see this group. So let me know if you recognize the song. I actually don't think I'm going to play very much of it because I honestly don't know who doesn't know this song, but let me know.
1, 2, 3. Turn it up.
All right, there you go.